Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar. We're talking about sports communication technology. My name is Jeppe Linegaard, and I am your host and moderator of the day. I'm also the event manager and project manager here at Danish Sound Cluster. I have a background in music and sound design, and I'm also a very keen football fan. So today's topic is right on the top of my wish list here. We are a member organization in the sound industry, and you can follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn, where we will give updates on all of our webinars and other events, conferences, and network events. Yes, like I just said, we facilitate networking, collaborations, research, and knowledge sharing, just like today. And we do that with webinars, conferences, network events, and innovation projects. Now, innovation projects is something I'll get back to in the very final part of the webinar. So please stay in touch if you're interested in that. We have a partner on today's webinar. We are very happy to welcome Ida. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have our expert panel here with us today, Morten Bertelsen from FC Copenhagen, Jens Knudsen from Vocalo, and Paul van Doren from Sorama in the Netherlands. Now, I would like to welcome you, Morten Bertelsen. You can turn on your camera, please. Morten, you have worked with the development of people and organizations in contexts such as coaching, education, leadership development, and as a teacher at the University of Copenhagen and Aalborg University in team development and coaching. You've also worked with organizational development, HR, creative processes, executive management, coaching, and teamwork. So obviously you have a very strong people skill profile. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on last night's win with
Thank
FC
you.
Copenhagen. I'm curious, what's your role and how do your people skills come into play on a game day at FC Copenhagen like yesterday?
Yeah, thank you, Jeppe. Yeah, it's a good question. I think my role is very much related to the preparation during the game. I'm not that much involved, more being an observer of what is going on in order to be able to learn from that and also to intervene on behalf of what was going on. Sometimes I help the coaches to be a little bit more sane throughout the game. But during the day before, I am very busy in helping the players structure and getting all our game ideas into life by coordinating what should you do when I do this, and helping them being in the right space or spot for performing. And on the game day, it can be small conversations with the individual players or coaches. Can also be in groups like the four-back chain. That what are we gonna do today to succeed, or stuff like that. So it's many different things, but mostly conversations about what are we looking into, what have we learned from last time, and stuff like that. I think that pretty much describes it.
Thank you very much, Morten. We're looking forward to hearing your presentation in a bit and your participation in our audio technology discussion. Now, Jens Knudsen, I would like to welcome you to the panel. You can turn on your camera, please. Jens, you have a background in business and elite football, both as a player and a coach. and you are the CEO of Vocalo and also the co-founder, the first company to capture and analyze audio data from players and coaches. You founded Vocalo in 2019 with your brother, Jakob Nygaard, and you focus on capturing and analyzing in-game sports communication to optimize team performance and talent development. Vocalo has developed an audio wearable for recording communication, along with a platform that provides analytical insights, and is currently creating the first ever data set of communication in sports. So Jens, for someone like me who doesn't know that much about your product, speaking of game day, can you tell us a little bit about how your technology comes into play on game day? If not, maybe on a practice week. Just give us a quick example.
Yes, sure. And thanks for inviting, Jeppe. So, so basically, what we deliver to customers is insights into how their players are communicating, but also how coaches are communicating to players. Basically, we regard audio as a data source that you can analyze. And the way clubs and our customers use Vocalo today is to get insights how the communication actually has been on the pitch, whether it's training matches, whether it's trainings in general. Until now, they have not had that information yet. So basically, all coaching on communication, all analysis on communication has been based on gut feelings. And this happens in a world where, or in an industry where more or less everything is tracked. So it's a huge gap in an area of sports, which really impacts performance in a quite significant way. So, and I think Morten can also, when he goes through how they work with it, provide some more examples. But basically, providing clubs with insights into how their players and their coaches communicate during trainings and during matches.
Thanks, Jens. Sounds great. And thank you so much for joining us today. Now we have a final participant all the way from the Netherlands, Paul van Doren. Thank you so much, or is it? I guess it's Paul van Doren. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are the VP of Product, Smart City and Smart Stadium at Sorama, based in Eindhoven. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yes, good. So with over 20 years of experience in safety and security, you have been at the forefront of applying innovative solutions in stadiums and sports venues. In 2019, you joined Sorama to contribute to the mission of making the world sound right. Currently, Paul leads the Liverpool Cities division at Sorama, where he oversees development of acoustic camera solutions. These solutions are designed to engage fans in stadiums and identify unwanted chanting. So, Paul, some of you out there in the audience may have heard of a camera, but may not have heard of an acoustic camera. Can you give it just a quick explanation?
Yes, of course. So an acoustic camera is actually a device that is made up of an array of microphones where you can visualize sound and sound sources. And this gives valuable insights into numerous amounts of applications, which I will also address during my presentation shortly. Not mowing the grass away too quickly. On the one hand, technology, hardware, and we also develop the software to show where sound is present and what is in the sound.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to hear more about that. Now, enough of the small talk. I would like to leave you, Morten, to it. And just give me a second here. Morten Bertelsen, first team sports psychologist of FC Copenhagen. For those of you joining us a bit late, we're talking about sports communication technology today. So Morten, please take it away and share your screen. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeppe. So I will just tell you a little bit about how we work with communication in FC Copenhagen. But firstly, I should maybe say that FC Copenhagen is a professional football club with a really big talent department as well. So we have players working with communication from they are 14, 15 years old. I'm the sports psychologist, so I help the coaches being better at being coaches and win games. But when I started looking at how we communicate as coaches, but also as players, in the beginning I was struck by when I played football myself, and now there wasn't really a big difference. It was unprecise communication. It was supporting communication like come on, or it was really negative communication, and we didn't really have any tools to, or there are tools to work with it. So in 2021 we started looking at how would we like to communicate in FC Copenhagen, and I was lucky to hook up with Jens and Jakob in 2022, and we started to look at the possibilities in actually hearing what the players are saying to each other, and then we found out that all the stats and the ideas that came from that was not specific enough, so we needed to have the video picture as well closely related to the context, the situation in the game, because otherwise we couldn't really, or I felt that we couldn't really use it for anything. So we, in the beginning, we actually put it into GarageBand and it was working okay, but now we have a beautiful platform that can make it a lot easier for us. But in the beginning, it was like that. And I think the big step for me was when I could sit and I could watch situation in the game, hearing what the player was saying to each other, and then go back to the players and talk to them about it. And we worked with this for a while, and we had workshops with the players where they also had homework. They had to go home and listen to themselves and discuss, is this the way we want to communicate right now? And so initially it was more a focus of how do we communicate, and is that the way we want to communicate? And then I thought we got a lot more interested in how should we communicate if this is the way we want to play football. And we had some really good students doing a lot of research on what our players were telling each other. We had a lot of insights on that. But now we're in a situation where we are pretty sure that this is how we want our players to communicate, basically on defensive things. So we have a defensive terminology, and we can sort of talk to them about it, teach them about it. The coaches can be a lot more specific with the players about what to say when, defined by the phase in the game, but also where they are playing on the pitch, because it's different if you're a goalkeeper or a striker or eight. So I think we've been through that journey, and it has been for us, it has been really learningful. So just to give you a background for where we are today, but one of the basics that we have been working with or standing on for the last 3 or 4 years is that the communication should be timely, precise, and problem solving. And if you take those 3 things, then the communication is normally really, really good, because there's a lot of communication there isn't problem solving. It can be precise, timely, but it doesn't solve the problem. So if you can talk to players about this, then it's easier for them to see that, okay, then I have to do it in this way, because then it's easier for my right winger or whatever. So that's the basic for us. But of course, we want game impact. We want to win games, and we want to use communication as a lever for that. But it's also a lever for tactical learning and performance. So we use it for winning games, but to win games, we need to communicate also during our sessions every day. So we have integrated it as a part of our style of play. This is the way we want to play football in FC Copenhagen. And if we want to play like that, then it's also important that the players know how to communicate in that situation. And then it has been really good for us to have especially one master student that sort of investigated what are the players actually saying to each other, and from that perspective giving us the possibility of making a terminology based on what they're actually saying to each other. So it's a mix of having a style of play and also the more going native, listening to what the players actually are saying, and mix that in order to get that terminology that we use today, and be able to present this to new players. This summer we had 11 or 12 new players coming into the first team, and for me it was really nice to be able to say to them, this is the way that we communicate in FC Copenhagen when we don't have the ball. So you have to learn this, and that's your homework. And then I can listen to them during a game or during a training and say, maybe if you say this, then he will understand, and what he is saying to you now is this. So it's pretty basic, but it's been a really big step for us to do it that way. So how do we actually do it? And I won't get into details because I mentioned some of it, but it has to do with how do we want to play? Do we integrate it in our daily planning of the training? Do we involve the players in it? Do we use it as examples before matches or after matches? But it has the outset of a tactical thing that gives us the terminology, the cues that we want to look for. We put it into a development plan for the individual player and his position, and then we work on it in different ways. It can be with groups of 3 where they evaluate each other. It can be Department of Defense that are all the defensive players working, and then we can also integrate it as a deliberate practice where they get a lot of feedback, individually feedback on the pitch, but also after every session. So there are many ways of working with communication, but it all comes down to that. Right now, we can stand outside the pitch, and then I hear something, but when I get back in my office and I can use Vocalo and the sound from that, then I hear a lot more. All the small things I can hear, and I can present it to the players. I can talk to the players about it. I can even show the coaches that he's always communicating too soon or too late, or he's talking really negative about himself in these situations, whatever it is. Yeah, so, but it all comes down to an idea that I've been working with lately. Before I show this, I actually want to tell the story about, we have a player from Brazil who is a really, really good player, but he's good in Brazilian Portuguese and not that good in English. And here he has to understand English, and he has to be able to guide the other players in front of him or aside him in English. And after that, we've been working with him intensively with the defensive terminology, but also in a way forcing him to speak English instead of Portuguese or Spanish with the players that know those languages. He's taking big steps into owning the game, and he is a big leader by heart and a very tactical, bright player. But without his communication, he has felt less. Not that a good player he really is. But lately he's been communicating in English, and he tells me that it's actually when I hear myself say what I want the team to do that I also understand it, and that's also where I can do the stuff that I used to do. So the language and the communication for him has meant a lot. So that is translocation. You can call it that, but it's actually understanding what is going on and feeling safe in yourself, embody it when you say it. So by coming from being silent into putting words to it has meant a big difference for him, and I think that's a really good example of how you can use Vocalo to work with a guy like this. So yeah, I don't want to get more into it. I think that was the example that worked really well around that. I don't know if you have any questions or things that.
Thank you very much, Morten. We'll take some questions in the final part of the webinars, and I'm sure that there will be some appearing as the webinar goes on.
Cool.
But thank you so much for your presentation. I'm not sure you had a video or something like that. It didn't play on.
No, I didn't have a video.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, I can find one, but no, it's good.
No. That's great. Okay, thank you very much. I will leave the floor to Jens Knudsen. Jens Knudsen, co-founder and CEO of Vocalo. Jens, you can take it away, please, and share your screen.
All right, thanks.
You can just take over from me on the screen sharing.
Yeah. So you should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So just short about me, CEO and co-founder of Vocalo, background within business consulting and sports as well. Have played on elite level and also coached on elite level in Denmark. At Vocalo, we're basically the first company to in the world to unlock audio intelligence in sports to increase next level performance. Morten mentioned a couple of use cases for this. I will tell a bit more about that when we proceed. But actually, as a start, to kind of give an example of how how sports has been analyzed so far, is if everyone imagine that you're sitting home in your couch and you're watching a movie, and then you suddenly find out that you cannot hear the actors in the movie, and it's kind of that you are missing some quite important information here, right? It's actually like you are missing the whole context of what is actually happening in this movie. And this is how sports so far has been analyzed. Basically, even though like there are huge staff members around sports teams, and even though like video data is fully integrated in sports, biometrics, so how fast players run, accelerations, deaccelerations, and so on, is fully integrated in sports. Audio data is missing. It's basically non-existing, and the consequence here is that the sports data picture, to understand what is actually happening outside of the pitch right now, is incomplete. And the consequences here are actually quite huge, because we see that when there's a lack of audio, it kind of blocks a quite huge value creation. One of the things is that the way team communicate heavily impacts performance. we know, so the way players communicate together with each other. The second part is that we know the way coaches communicate to the players can impact up to 30% of the individual players' individual performance, but also the team performance. And thirdly, if we look at all transfer decisions, for instance, last year in 2024, more of 50% of all transfers were unsuccessful worldwide. And even though data is being heavily used to make the right transfer decisions, audio and the way players communicate is not taken into consideration. That means that valuation of players is based on a incomplete information set, and also the decision whether to sell or to buy a certain player is also based on what is actually being measured out there, but not about communication, which actually impacts performance. And everything of this happens in an industry where teams are like doing everything, like literally everything, to chase the smallest margins. So this is basically what we're changing with Vocalo. There have been some experiment about like audio and data before. This is, for instance, Lee Johnson, which we are collaborating with. Lee is a former professional football player. He's also a former coach, or currently a professional football coach. When he was in Bristol City for 5 years ago, they did their own experiment by miking up a player called Adam Webster. They bought Adam Webster for roughly £3 million, and by miking Adam Webster up, providing him feedback on his communication skills, they actually managed to increase his value and sell him 1 year later for roughly 25 million to Brighton in the English Premier League. So this is quite similar to the example Morten provided with the player they have worked on at FC Copenhagen. The issue here was that when Lee and the team did this, the way they mounted the mic was really time consuming, and the way they analyzed the communication afterwards was really time consuming. And we're changing this with Vocalo. So what we do is that we have a created solution which is basically a microphone for all players. So they wear the mic, this is the mic, in a vest like this, and they're used to wear this because in the back there sits a GPS unit to track physical data. The unit here picks up everything what is being said outside on the pitch from each player and each coach, and that makes it possible for us to then analyze the communication post session. So we have a platform where our clubs can go in and analyze communication in different kind of ways. The first thing is that we are able to synchronize audio with video. So you can basically go in after a session, watch the video again, and clubs are using tons of hours analyzing video today. They're not just having the full picture. So you can then go into our platform, select or deselect whoever you want to hear. You have full flexibility. And then all of a sudden you have a full picture of what actually happened outside on the pitch. The second part is that we use AI to then transform audio into data points. So for each player, we can count how many times does a player speak. We can categorize the communication into different kind of communication types, meaning that you can have a more analytical approach to analyzing communication. So this is kind of the core concept right now. We have been developing this with top Danish clubs. Morten and FC Copenhagen has been one of them and one of the pioneers in Denmark, actually also worldwide, to work with communication. So the concept here has been formed with them, got loads of feedback on what to do. And this is what we have during our product development based on. Lastly, it's possible for us then to also share audio, so it can be shared with players, with coaches in the club. But eventually, there's also a commercial perspective on this, so it can also be shared with fans to create a better fan experience when watching training session or matches after session. Yes, I think that was basically it. Yeah, I'll try to keep it like this and then leave some time for Q&A. But thank you very much for letting me talk about Vocalo and the use of Vocalo.
Thank you so much, Jens. And yes, that was short and sweet. I like it. Please, if you have any questions, you in the audience, please leave them in the Q&A, and we'll get back to them as soon as we've heard from Paul van Doren from Sorama in Eindhoven. Sorry, I'll just put on your image here. He's the VP Product, Smart City, and Smart Stadium. Paul, please take it away, and you can take over my screen sharing here.
Yes, I will do. Let's select the right screen and then also share sound. And maybe a small disclaimer, I will have some sound clips in my presentation. So if you are wearing earplugs or headphones, please be aware of that. It could be that it comes in very loudly. So hopefully you can see my correct screen.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, to start things off, what we basically do arenas a superpower, and that superpower is that they are able to see sound. And just to give you an idea on what we at Sorama do, so in the introduction, Jeppe also mentioned that our mission is to make the world sound right. And we apply our technology to give insights into where there are noise issues or where noise can be or sound can be improved in order for the world to be a little bit of a better place. One of the applications that we work on is we have a solution to detect loud vehicles in cities. And that consists of an ANPR, so a license plate camera with our acoustic camera. And combined, we can make a capture of a vehicle that is too loud, and that vehicle can be fined in certain parts of the world, or you can create awareness with that. Another application is revolved around buildings. So we know that energy consumption is very important, or at least low energy consumption. And a lot of energy is being lost through the facades of a building. And there are a lot of ways to see whether a building is energy efficient or as close as possible. But these involve either smoke or putting a building under pressure. And with using our technology, having an ultrasonic sound source inside of the building and scanning with our equipment, you can very easily find energy leaks in buildings and address them and make sure that no energy is being lost. Another application is in industry, where we look for gas leaks, for compressed air leaks, for machine faults. And if you know that on average 35% of compressed air in factories is lost by leaks, then you don't have to be a very bright calculator to know that if you can address these leaks and close them up again, that you can save a lot of money on energy consumption. And the application that we're going to look into a little bit more today is about engaging fans more into sports and also let them be positive. And this is maybe also a nice bridge to how we are organized as a company. So we have 4 main industries that we provide. So Livable Cities is the team that I'm responsible for, and we work on smart city applications like loud vehicle detection, safety, urban noise, and stadiums. We have the Livable Buildings that works on that air tightness, acoustics, and sound leaks. Sustainable Industries is mainly focused on maintenance, but the compressed air leaks and stuff like that. And Sustainable Products has applications where it's more related to NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness, but also the acoustic quality of products. So if there is a product that has been in the design phase and it has a certain sound problem, then with our equipment you can very quickly address where that sound problem is coming from, and then solve it accordingly. Well, you've all seen a thermal camera and an acoustic camera shows an image like this. So a thermal camera is also a piece of equipment that can show whether or not a building is closed or not, except for when the outside temperature is the same as the inside temperature. Then a thermal camera is insufficient because it cannot distinguish between temperatures. And our acoustic camera doesn't have that problem. So you just place an ultrasonic source inside a room, and outside you measure and you find where there's a leak. Other applications, and this is a little bit an example of the product development part, and in part also different fan engagement. So this is a fan that's used for gaming PCs. And by analyzing the fan in operation with our equipment and the software that's behind here, people can very easily see where how the sound progresses through the ventilator and how they can optimize it in a way that it is cooling perfectly, but also is as silent as possible. This is an example of a handheld acoustic camera for leak detection. Here is the same application, but then mounted on a robot, where robots go autonomously in factories to find air pressure leaks or machine faults and stuff like that. And this is an example of the loud vehicle detection. Well, then we make the step to stadiums and fans. What is the biggest problem nowadays in stadium? So we have a new generation called Gen Z. Everybody has heard about them. I have a daughter that's in that generation, and they are less engaged, or at least they consume sports and football a little bit different than our generation is used to. Fans enter the stadium late, they leave early. In stadiums, there is a sponsorship cap. That means that every bit and piece of football and stadium sponsor opportunity has been worked on and dealt with. But we feel that with our application, we have a new way of for clubs to hook on sponsors to their club and generate money. And then the most negative part, which is still a problem, is the racist chanting in stadiums, and we can also provide for a solution there. Talking about the Philips Stadium, so this is a picture of one of our sensors in the Philips Stadium, where we have 37 of our acoustic cameras, and with these 37 acoustic cameras, we are able to make a heat map of the entire stadium and give insights into how enthusiastic the fans are. So what can we do with acoustic cameras in sports stadiums? We can see sound, we can map sound on a map, obviously. We can classify sound, locate sound or sound sources, we can stream sound, and we can record sound. This is an example of how they deal with it in the US, where this is fan engagement. The screen says for people to get loud, there's a lot of noise coming from the speakers, and this actually doesn't really encourage people to make noise themselves. So what we did,
Max, bal kwijt. Ja, Max. Feyenoord kort op. En wat een ruimte daar. En de goal ook. De snelle goal van Idrissi. Die schuift hem in de lange hoek. Vroege goal, maar prutswerk van Max. Gakpo. Brent Waite. En zo is het gelijk. Subtiele voetbeweging.
So this,
sorry to interrupt you, Paul, but
Yeah.
the audio is kind of your voice is not going through the audio. It's very loud. So maybe
Okay.
repeat some of your
So-
points.
Yeah, so what you first in the first section, in the first clip that I showed, you saw that there is noise. The stadium asks people to make noise, but then the stadium is louder than the people can be, so that's not really engaging. And what we did is we make this heat map where you actually show where the most noise is coming from. And you give instant feedback to the fans on their enthusiasm. This is being shown in the Philips Stadium every time PSV scores a goal. So that visitor goal, they don't really show that. But then also with an indication of how loud everybody was, gives direct feedback on how loud fans were. And what you see is that on social media, for instance, there is actually interactions between fans saying, hey, section RR, next time you also have to be directly bright red. And section S was the most enthusiastic fan section. So this directly shows that people find this information regarding their enthusiasm interesting. But also want to engage with each other about it. This was used in the Philips Stadium for a while in the innovation corner, where a select group of fans were invited to engage with certain new innovations in the stadium, and some involved VR, but also our heat map. And it was picked by the fans as the #1 new innovation from that section. Well, here you see that we also did the same for a match at the Philips Stadium for the Dutch national team against Greece. Here you see how the stadium actually, where the loudest fans are. And this also gives, like, the sponsorship opportunity. Your brand goes here. So this is a way for sponsors to connect to, in this case, PSV, but it could also be FC Copenhagen, who knows, in a way that they are directly linked to the enthusiasm of the fans. Now, if we go back to the US, where last year the Intuit Dome was opened. That's the new basketball arena for the LA Clippers. That's the most modern and technology advanced stadium in the world currently. And here I will explain first before I will show you the clip that is maybe easier. So here you see in the bottom, you see our application running, where we have divided the stadium in 8 sections. We very meticulously collect all sound data of these 8 sections. And on this big screen that is on top, it's 4,000 square meter of LED front and back, typical American. You see another example here. They have the Bring the Noise game, which was directly sponsored by Kia. And people in the stadium ask the crowd to get loud, and then the loudest section gets awarded loyalty points. And with these loyalty points, the fans can get a discount on a drink, or a discount on some food, or a discount on a purchase in the fan shop. And this really works over there. I will start the movie now.
Loud, but we're going to do something different. We're going to bring the noise. So I want you to take a look at the video board right now, because we'll be able to tell the loudest section in this arena. So take a look, and I want you to count it down. And get ready in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, so at home games of the LA Clippers, they do this every match, and I was lucky to be there for 4 matches last year, and every match the whole stadium erupts, and yeah, it's pretty cool to be a part of their show. Obviously, in Europe we are a little bit different in our engagement, and especially at football. But yeah, I do believe that if also in Europe we don't look at new ways of engaging new fans, then at some point we find that our stadiums get more empty and empty. So that's an important part. Other one, like I mentioned before, what we also can do is have a solution for the racist chanting. So this is an example of the dashboard that we created for PSV, where you see a timeline of the match here in the bottom. You see the stadium divided in sections, and because there is not and that's also lucky, but there is not a big data set that you can train AI on negative and racist chanting, because you know, if that is being put on social media or on YouTube, then all these channels also very quickly take that off, and I think that's a good thing. But it's hard for companies like us then to train it to AI to come to detect the racist chanting. We thought, let's turn that around. So what we did was we took 4 of the most known PSV fan songs. We trained AI to recognize that. And if those songs are recognized, they also come into the list. But if the system recognizes something that is not trained to the model, then the security team gets a trigger. For instance, that could be here in section X. Then they can click that section. They can directly listen in to that section. And that shows a little bit like this. Excuse me. Where they zoom into that section, and then the system indicates where in the section the anomaly was triggered. And it could be that it's something that one of the defenders scored a goal, and they are singing something positive to the defender, but yeah, that was obviously not something that we could have trained because it's not a known fan song. And then it's perfectly all right. So then they can put a thumbs up. And if it was a negative chant song, then they can put a thumbs down, and that becomes part of the training set that we can use to make the system a little bit more less prone to false positives or false negatives. And currently the security team of PSV is using this. We also combine it with video, so that they have a video and an audio clip of a certain event, which they can use to take people off the stands, confront them with the evidence, and maybe give them a stadium ban or something else. At least people know that they cannot get away with that behavior, and hopefully that at some point will result in less of these things to worry about. So in recap, what we basically always do is we see sound, we map sound, we classify, locate, stream, and record sound within stadiums in a couple of different areas where we believe that we can contribute to making the world sound right. And that was my presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. That was super interesting, and a lot of some different cases here that shows an interesting development here. So now you can unshare your screen, and we will invite Morten and Jens back in to the panel here, so you can turn off your cameras and microphones. Hello, good to see you again. We've got questions coming in, and I've also got a few here. So I will just start off here with a question from Rune Domsteen. This one's for you, Jens, I believe. Is the audio capture in your solution, is it in real time or is it for download later?
So the first, so we have so to answer it specifically. So right now it's only for post analysis. So we capture it and then we send it to the cloud for post-match analysis. As a part of our roadmap, we will be able to enable real-time features later on. So the hardware itself is built to be able to send audio live. And when we can send or stream audio live, then we'll also be able to do the data analytical parts on the audio live in real time. But right now, as it is for now, because we have kind of focused on making a product that can be used now, then the focus is and short time to market. Then right now it's only for post session as it is for the current stage.
All right, thank you, Jens. I have another question here from.
No, but can I say something
Yep,
in
sure,
regards
please.
to that? Because I
Please.
think that's a really interesting question regards of also what Paul is talking about. Because if we can actually hear when we sit home behind our TV screens what the players are saying to each other, I think that will engage a crowd, a different crowd than the guys on the stadium. But I think that's going to be some of the next step. Jens and I also talked about that. It could be really interesting over time to hear what the players are actually communicating to each other in specific situations.
And that was actually a prepared question of mine, that when do you think we'll see that for the first time? Do you have any feeling of that? When will we see it in a Danish Super League match, for example?
That's you, Jens.
I think there are two sides of this. There's when is it? When have we developed it? When is it technological feasible? That's the first part. The second part is when will it be allowed to do this in official matches? Regarding the technical feasibility, that is available now. So our system just doesn't support it yet. So it's something we will develop as a part of our roadmap. On the more legal side of it or allowance side of it, then it will require that it will be allowed in for official matches. And I think to get this allowed, it kind of there probably needs to be two pushes. There needs to be a push from the sports side of it, because they have a desire to actually work with communication like they work with all other data during matches. That's the first part of it. Then the second part of it is the more commercial side of it. So like Paul can share audio live from the spectators, then obviously being able to hear players and coaches in the moment, or maybe with like a 30 seconds delay, if we should kind of filter out sensitive moments, it will just create a way more engaging fan experience, which is basically what TV producers, broadcasters ultimately want to create. So with that said, it's I hope we can do something in Denmark, that Denmark can be a front runner of actually doing this, both to increase performance, but also to make the fan experience better.
Yeah, if I can add to that, because what we are currently looking at is creating a possibility to have a spatial audio mix of the stadium that you could provide to the people watching at home, but also giving the people at home an opportunity, if they watch their favorite team on television, to be like virtually seated in a section of the stadium that they want to be a part of, or where they normally sit, but they have a broken leg, they cannot go to the stadium. So kind of like driving along with Hamilton or with Max Verstappen when you're watching a Formula One race. that you are, sitting in your favorite fan section. And if you then would combine it with Vocalo, for instance, to also be able to hear the players communicate amongst each other, yeah, that would be a very awesome experience, of course. But what I was wondering actually is, and those are, subjects that we also work with or have to deal with, is how did you overcome like a bit of a privacy issue with the players, for instance, Morten? I can understand that players sometimes in the heat of the moment they say stuff that is also not really that nice. And how do you confront them with that, and or how does that work, or was there any how do you say that rejection to that from the players?
Yeah, well, there's not really a legal thing in it for us because it's our players, but of course there can be an ethical thing in it if they say something that are racist or. But for us, it has only been really good because then we can talk about it. We can talk about all the bad situations and how we could do that differently. And I think it hasn't been really an issue. I think our biggest issue is that the way the situation is right now, that we can't use it in games because of the referees, and the legal setup in Denmark is that it's not allowed. I think that's a problem because training matches is good, and of course training is good, but in real matches it would be really nice to have it as well. But I don't recall any players that didn't want to have it wear it and be listened to, because they want to perform better, and they understand that if I can be better at this, then I will be worth more or perform better, and we win more games. So it's of course there's a lot of funny moments as well that we can see and we can laugh about, but it hasn't been an issue.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's good to know. Thanks.
All right, great. So now you're talking about how technology will kind of enter the broadcast of football. So we've already seen technology such as VAR and goal line technology and stuff like that being discussed a lot. So I'm a football romantic myself, and I would like to ask you what do we potentially lose with the increase of technology in sports as a consumer? Maybe you have an idea about that, Paul.
Well, yeah. So obviously we are not developing technology to lose anything. So I started also my presentation, or at least the middle part, where I stated some problems which stadiums are facing, and it might not be that obvious right now, but in a couple of years' time, you will slowly start to see that the fans of the future, they want to consume their sports or things that they want to engage with differently. So like I said, my daughter swipes through a movie where we sit 2 hours in front of a screen, and she's just interested in that one scene that she really likes, or there's this cute guy that she wants to watch 300 times. And that's way different than we are used to watching a movie, and sitting on a seat 1.5 hours watching people play a sport, might not be 100% what people go to a stadium for. And I think it's important that together with clubs, together with stadium owners, together with leagues, that we look into certain potential issues and see where technology can help to keep people coming to the stadium and to keep it exciting and to keep people engaged in a positive way. So technology is never there to eliminate stuff. Maybe that raises chanting, but that is something that we can lose. So
Right.
that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. So I guess the challenge here is also that you need to reach more than just one group. You need to reach the originals, so to say, and the new football fans, right? And they consume differently. Isn't that your point here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but also if you mean by the originals, the fanatics, then
old people like me.
Yeah, no, but the fanatics they also really like to see how well they perform on an engagement score, if you will. So were they louder than the visitor section, or do they need to improve? They really like to see like the 107 dB because people they might not really understand what 107 dB on energy is related to sound, but everybody has an idea on 107 dB. Whoa, that's really loud. And we are also currently working on making these stats available where you can actually start to see if if during a game where I don't hope so, but where PSV loses, that you actually see that the fans were less engaged, and that you can start looking for correlations between, hey, if you are acting like the 12th man, then actually the team performs better, and this means that we can win more games. So if you guys are less engaged, but then it's always the balance, why are they less engaged? Because the players are not doing their best, but these are interesting insights that in the future, I think clubs can also use to their benefit.
Cool. Right. So I've got a question here from Christian Pierre Niese, and this one's for you, Jens, but perhaps also you, Morten. There must be a huge difference between audio under stressful performance in a stadium and audio during training. How are you working with that difference? Is audio during training worth as much to assess player, coaching, team performance as in matches, I suppose?
I think, I can answer it. Actually, I think Morten would be a better choice to answer this one.
Yeah, I would love to answer it. I think it's a really good question. It's like this. When you play, for example, in Parken and there's 30,000 people screaming, the goalkeeper can't tell the 9 to go deep, but you can always speak to the nearest player, and then he can bring on communication. So it's tough, but if you train it, then you will also play in the games like that. So if you're good at communicating during training, then you will embody it, and then you'll also perform it during the games. So that's our philosophy about it. Also, it's not just vocally; it's also being able to see that right now my right back really wants me to do something. Then I can see it on his body language is screaming something, or so it's you have to train it to play it really. I don't know if that answered it, but that's our view of it.
Thank you. So we have a question here from Rune Domsten again. Is Vocalo considering to send other data like heartbeat and acceleration? And he's writing a collision force in exclamation marks.
So we have an IMU in our device. That means that we can correlate that with the communication. We can use the IMU to, for instance, track like orientation, accelerations, impact, and so on. but also in what direction is the player turning. And that's quite important when we are then synchronizing that with communication, because we can track what is being said. We can also track with what volume. When we know with what volume and we know with what direction, we can basically also make a communication heat map. So for instance, if Jeppe is screaming something to Morten, then we can actually also calculate the likelihood of that Morten is receiving it. Because when we talk about communication, one thing is the sender of communication. To make a complete communication picture, you also should consider the receiver of the communication. So is the receiver actually hearing what is being said? But more importantly, is the receiver then acting upon this? So if I'm saying right to Morten, does Morten then turn to the right, or does he just not doesn't care because I'm like a youngster just coming up from the youth team with no experience? Then that's actually also, I could imagine, Morten, you're also welcome to put your sense on this. Then it's sometimes not the matter of that. Then the problem is not that the youngster is not communicating. Then the problem is that there is a hierarchy that needs to be discussed in the team, right? And then just before leaving it to you, Morten, the other thing is then being able to correlate communication with other data sources. So accelerometer is one thing which we have in our device. Other quite interesting stuff is then correlating communication data with, for instance, event data. So can we see a correlation between the way our right side communicates with how many breakthroughs does the opponent have? And this can basically just be expanded to then say, okay, where do we see correlation between communication and performance? So it's not only like we're up 1-0, then we communicate in a different way. So we can actually correlate communication to the performance metrics in the match. So that was just also to kind of make a what's called comparison to not comparison, make a perspective to how communication can also be used with other data sources. Yeah, but maybe Morten, you can also talk about this communication.
Yeah, but I think you answered it pretty well. Well, it's an old saying, receiver is king, and it's exactly, if you don't react, if you don't have the behavior on behalf of what you're being told to do, then there's something to talk about. So then we talk about the talk, really. And it's also in those, maybe it's hierarchy, maybe it's misunderstandings, different perspectives on what is the situation in inviting us to do. It's all that, but being able to discuss it when you don't have 180 in pulse, it's really relevant. But I think the idea of receiver as king is good, because then he also decides, and then we can talk about, was it the right decision? And of course, if there's someone not listening to someone who gives you the right message, then we have a big problem. And we don't care how old he is. If he's good enough, then he can play and he can communicate. So that's how it is.
All right, I have a question for you, Paul. This one's from Christian Biamnise once again. We've got a few active listeners here. That's great. What is the spatial resolution you can achieve? Are you using beamforming with 37 speakers in a stadium? You can probably benefit from that. I hope that makes sense to you.
Yeah. So actually, yes, we do use beamforming as a means to gather the audio data, and it all depends a little bit on the venue and obviously the resolution that you want to achieve. In the Philips Stadium, it's a stadium that has a capacity of 35,000 seats, and I think we can have a resolution of 5 by 5 seats where we can be very specific on what is being said or where a certain chant has started. And in the Intuit Dome, that has an 18,000, so 18,000 seat capacity. And there we have 64 acoustic cameras, and there we can be seat accurate. So we can gather the audio data from each seat and there, get that data and do stuff with it. But it depends a little bit on the venue. So the Philips Stadium obviously is an outdoor stadium, and the Intuit Dome is indoor. So there are some things to take into account, reflections and stuff. So it's kind of complex. And we are also looking into ways to make it a little bit more easy to how do you say that, to calibrate and to commission a system, because it can be very complex. But that is a bit of insights into the spatial resolution.
He's replying, wow. So I think that's that's enough answer.
That's a good reply. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So you're comparing a lot to also this this stadium, indoor stadium in Los Angeles. So I can't help but thinking about that cultural difference you were also mentioning, like how we attend a sports game is different in Europe and the US. So I have a thought here, like what do you think is the most important? Is it making the venues, the stadiums, the football clubs use sound more, or is it educating the fans to wanting to engage more? What comes first?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, but also a difficult one to answer. I think so. There is a cultural difference in how people in the US experience sports or experience going to a game and watching stuff. Like if you look at baseball, for instance, there a New York Yankee fan can sit next to a Boston Red Sox fan, and they don't agree about who is the best team in the world, but they endure each other. They don't get mad at each other. They don't fight. And in football stadiums, 9 out of 10 times, or maybe 99 out of 100 times, you can't have opposing fans sitting next to each other. It just doesn't work. So that's a problem in itself, which we were not able to solve. But all in all, I think making use of sound as an input for whatever you want, if it's fan engagement, if it's player communication, if it's safety and security. Oftentimes these systems are deaf, because we are used to using cameras, we interpret cameras, but we don't take sound into the mix. And if you know, and obviously if you are working a lot with sound, how many decisions people make based on what they get in through their ears, then it's a really waste of time that we don't use that more often. So on the one hand, we have a technology step to take, and companies like us, but also for Carlo, we try to make it available in a way that it also is useful, but also is attainable for the masses. Because we all know of the big companies that have large microphone arrays and they cost 100,000 euros. Well, I can tell you that no stadium will invest in a single microphone array of 100,000 euros to make their fans more enthusiastic. So we are also trying to not go sit on the seat of these companies that make that technology, but we try to make it as reachable as possible with actionable results in order for people to actually use it. And I think that is a big step in the right direction. But also, I think, and thank you for the opportunity here, that we get in contact with like people like Morten, but the same goes for the technical staff at PSV or at the Clippers or wherever, to really understand what is needed and how we can provide solutions that would enable Copenhagen to be better than their biggest rival in the Danish competition.
Yeah, please go ahead, Jens, if you want to add anything.
No, it's actually a question for you, Paul, because so really impressed with Sorama, but Sorama, and it really like it. You can like sell your product to or you create value to make more like fan engaging content, live and post. You can do it for security reasons, right? And you also have some considerations about how do we actually apply audio data to increase performance side. So you also seeing audio as a data resource that can be applied across different kind of segments within sports. I'm just curious about like how do you go about this, because it really holds a huge potential, but sometimes it's also really important to have like the focus. But I'm really curious because you are in possess of such a great technology with such a huge potential. How do you like balance your focus?
Yeah, so that sometimes is difficult. It becomes a little bit less because we get as time progresses, we get a clearer view on where our added value is, or where the biggest potential also business-wise lies. But actually, there is not a week that goes by that we encounter a new customer or a potential customer or somebody that we have a talk with and that says, "Oh, but if you can do this, then you can most probably also can do that." And we are looking also slightly into bioacoustics, for instance, but that is something that we take on as a research topic. But there have been requests of people that to make it really ridiculous, there was this guy that wanted to detect ghosts with our equipment because I don't know how, but yeah, if you look at a sound blob on a screen, it looks like a ghost. So maybe that was confirmation for him that his theory was correct. But just to give you also an idea on how broad the requests are that we are getting. But yeah, that's also why I showed in my presentation that we have these 4 business units that focus on specific markets. So it's kind of like the similar equipment, but then with a little bit different software layer to be more focused towards buildings, for instance, or leak finding, or fan engagement, or finding loud cars. But it can well be, so we are kind of like organized in a cell structure. So if a specific market becomes too big to handle for a specific unit that it's a part of, then it will just split off and not physically split off, but be handled as a new business unit, and then we will have the people and the capacity in there to put focus on those markets. And for stadiums, that could be a very near future that we decide to do that.
Sounds great. Thank you for the question, Jens. I have one for you, Morten, because it seems like there's a lot of focus on the communication and the tactical part of the game. Do you see an effect, an influence on the players' confidence, on the players' well-being, on the mental part of this, as well as do you see an effect on the physical performance? Like, do you see players running faster or scoring more goals? Like so are there other side effects to this?
Well, it's hard to tell that. There can be my observations. but they are not always objective like some data. But I see that the fact that we use Vocalo the way we do, I see players be more engaging in the locker room, because it's sort of like they stepped on the other side of a border of what am I capable of doing here, and they are all together because they play football together. And then from a psychological perspective, there are two things that are related to performance in football, and that's psychological safety, and it's the level of cohesion. And both of those are very closely related to how you communicate together. Do you feel safe enough to be honest and say what you mean and what you want, and what you need from your teammates? And I think the fact that we use Vocalo as a tool, it makes it for some players easier to focus on. I have to express myself in order to get what I want on the pitch. So in that sense, you can say that I think it has a really big impact, and it's also a way of inviting communication into performance, because performance can a lot of times in a football club be related to goals, successful deep runs, or coaches' ideas about what is good and bad. But this is a more it's a tool that enhances the psychological safety, but it also puts some players on the edge sometimes. Is this really what it needed? I'm not like that, and then we can work with that, and that's maybe good to find out that I see myself as a different player, and how can I express myself so I can help my teammates and myself in these situations. So I think there's a lot of good things. I don't think that using Vocalo means that you sprint 102% instead of 100%. But I think it has a big impact on the overall performance if you look at psychological safety and cohesion, especially social cohesion. The task cohesion is high in clubs like this. Did it answer? And I know I didn't answer all of it, but
yeah, it's perfect. It's like it's also a team building tool, right? It's the collaboration between the players and how the team works together.
Yeah, but if you team building is, it's a big discussion to go into if you want to talk about team development.
We'll do that
team
in
building
another webinar.
Should you put them in the snow in Norway, or should you do something relevant for the sport? And it's a long discussion that we don't want to have.
Yep. But thank you very much, Morten. I have one for you, Jens, because you mentioned earlier that that in communication earlier, it's very much based on gut feeling, and now you are providing some data. But what does the gut feeling and the human interpretation mean in your data evaluation? Now, like I mentioned for you before we went live here, I'm a big fan of Silkeborg, with a head coach that uses his eyes and watches the game and watch the scoreboard. That's about it. So how do you kind of balance the human element and the data element of things?
It should definitely be at the club side. So basically, we're providing a tool that can tell something about what happened out there. but there will always be a human element to then interpret this, either by listening to what is being said or interpreting the data. We can provide a picture of what actually happened out there, and that is what has been missed so far in the sports industry, where you could go back and then watch the video of the game. You can watch all the goals you scored twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and really just analyzing it in deep. But so far you've basically missed a quite core element when analyzing this, and that means, and from my own experience, I have loads of examples of this, where we have made wrong analysis of what actually happened outside on the pitch, because we basically didn't know. And one example is a Danish national youth player we had in AGF. The common thinking of him in the club where I was previously at was that he did not communicate. And he was kind of in a process where we then started to provide him feedback on this. The only way we could do that was that I was running behind him for the training sessions, and I've never been in a better shape, but it wasn't scalable. But what we found out there was that the issue was not that he didn't communicate. The issue was not that he didn't say the right things, also precisely as Morten mentioned. The issue for him was that his volume was not high enough. So there was a complete misunderstanding of his communication skills internally in the club. And nowadays these players are being transferred for multi-million, where communication, especially in certain positions, is a core skill set to succeed. So having that said, I think there will always be a human interaction. There will always be, you need to kind of interpret it. But it's easier to interpret something that you can actually have some information on, rather than what I can see, because audio is not. I mean, Paul, you can track audio with with cameras, right? But on the pitch, you have never had this information before. So being able to interpret it also requires the information from what's actually been said out there.
Thank you very much. Super interesting. Now we are running out of time, Paul. Just a very, very fast one here to finish with. What do you think we'll see implemented as regards to sound in the near future in European football that we haven't seen yet? Do you have an offer for that?
Well, yeah. So maybe, like I said, the spatial audio coming from a stadium, being able as a fan to select when you're at home to sit in the fan section where you get the audio from the section that you want to sit or normally sit. These are things that are still in development, and also are sometimes a little bit sensitive when you talk to ESPN or I don't know, maybe what is it at Viaplay. They are very specific on right stuff and things that they want. But I think that is something that in the near future you will be able to consume as a fan when you're watching a game at home.
Sounds great. So when I will be watching football with my kids, I can place myself in the family section and not the loud home section. I'll look forward to that. We will have to wrap it up now, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. What an interesting webinar it has been. Morten Bertelsen from Edge Copenhagen, Jens Knudsen, Paul van Doren. Thank you so much. And if you in the audience have any questions, I'm sure that they are happy to answer them afterwards if you get in contact. Now, I would like to just mention to you out there that at the Danish Sound Cluster, we have a lot of nice innovation possibilities. we are making innovation projects where SMVs, which is startups and mid-sized companies, can get together and develop new things for their business. And it can be 2 SMVs or even more SMVs going together. Maybe you have a sound solution that you want to implement in the football stadium experience and whatnot. So you can please get in contact with us, and we are very happy to collaborate with you. And you can also go together with a university or a knowledge institution and develop all kinds of product and marketing and stuff like that. So please get in contact with my colleague Tine Midgaard, who's the project manager, if you are interested in an innovation project with us. That's all for now, and thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.